Dan Illman, Mike Beer, race number 10 at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Oaks Friday is the Grade 3 Edgewood Stakes for 3-year-old fillies on the turf. Let's take a peek at this field. It's a big one, and we've got a big favorite on the far outside. The number 11 Rushing Fall, undefeated, 4-for-4, winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf last year. She deserves to be an odds-on favorite, Mike, but Chad Brown has also cross-entered her against the boys on Saturday, where she drew an equally poor post position on the outside. If she runs here, she's obviously a logical contender. She just beat 3 of these common foes last time out in the Appalachian, but she had an easier trip than most. Yeah, she did have a really nice trip in that race. I mean, you know, as good as her trip was, she was always sort of under a confident ride from Javier Castellano, but boy, it's still hard to go back and watch that race and think, you know, she was some kind of clear-cut winner in there, considering what was going on with some of the other horses in there. I still think that she ran well. It was her first start off the layoff. She could obviously improve a little bit, but for a horse who's 4-5 on the morning line, as good as she is, how much of an edge do you really think she has in this field? I mean, I don't think she's like a clear-cut standout in this race. Plus, if she goes in this spot, she will have to deal with the far outside post. We are expecting some wet weather. That should not hurt Rushing Fall, the winner of the Jessamine at Keeneland over soft turf in her second lifetime start. Let's talk about the number 6, Daddy is a Legend. This horse has a good amount of ability for a very underrated trainer in George Weaver. I love the way she won her Keeneland Maiden. I like the way she won the Jimmy Durante 2 starts back, and I liked her in bet her last time out in the Appalachian. And all she did was break 3 lengths slow, was last and wide on the backstretch, made this gigantic early move to get within head-and-head contention with Rushing Fall, and then she understandably flattened out. Yeah. You just draw a line through that race, right? Yeah, I mean, she certainly has a big excuse for it. I wouldn't put a line through it just because she ran so well in there. I mean, it's not like, you know, she was backing up as they opened up the gate and it just cost her everything. And it's not like she just said, oh, well, I guess I can't win this. I mean, she made a huge run in that race. For her to run at it was a very good performance for her. And I'm with you. Her races 2 and 3 back were both really strong performances. She backed that race up exceptionally well in her 3-year-old debut, and I just have to believe she's a huge contender in this race. That race last time, the Appalachian's not the first time that she didn't break great from the gate, so she's going to have to do that in this spot. But if she does, man, I got to believe she's a huge contender in here. Rider switch to Arad Ortiz Jr., positive formula fact for trainer George Weaver. Over the past 2 years with 3-year-olds making their second start off of a layoff in turf routes, that's almost 40% winners, and a $3.59 ROI. That's the 6. Daddy is a Legend. A horse, again, that doesn't break well, is going to need some pace. I'm curious to see what Timeform US has to say about the pace situation in here. A little surprised that Beyond Blame, one of the 2 Brad Cox trained entrants, is out there on the lead. Yes, she was a gate-to-wire winner in her second lifetime start, but doesn't the other Cox horse, the 4 Figuerella's Queen, need the lead? Yeah, Figuerella's Queen. You know, the thing, I guess, with Figuerella's Queen as far as it pertains to the pace projector, and it was just that she hasn't been going fast paces in her races, and they take that stuff into account on the pace projector. I think you're right, though. She seems more like a need the lead kind of horse than Beyond Blame is. On the other hand, Beyond Blame, she's got a lot of speed. When you go back and look at all of her, even the last 2 races where she wasn't on the lead, I mean, boy, do they have to take a big hold of her to keep her off the pace of this race. She has speed. I would almost prefer to see Florent Giroux come out of there and try and make the lead with her, because I think she might be even better if they just let her roll on the front end. She's run some pretty good races. She has to improve to win this, but she's got some talent, that horse. Now, she's been the big favorite in her last 3 races. You can argue that the pace is what did her in 2 starts back in the Lacombe. She was close to a very fast pace. We'll get to the horse that beat her, Cabela, the deep closer that ran her down. Last time out, she was 1-2. She's supposed to whip those horses, and she also had a really beautiful pocket trip. Yeah, I mean, her 2 wins have come against horses that just really had no chance of beating her, but she also looked really good winning both of those races. And I'm sort of with you. She's been beaten by Cabela twice in her career. She might have run the best race both times when she lost to that horse. And so I really feel like she could be a contender in here at a bit of a price. I just hope that they try and make the lead with her, because I think that might be her best chance to win here. And as for Figuerella's Queen, a gate-to-wire winner in that Sanibel Island Stakes at Gulfstream Park, I believe that was Florida Derby afternoon, but she just got away with a really easy lead that day. I don't see that happening. Timeform US doesn't see that happening, but it's first time Brad Cox. Right, she hasn't run any bad races either, so she has that going for her. Her win last time
was more game than anything else. She took on some challenges through the stretch. She managed to hold on, but she had all the best of it as far as the running of the race.
You could make the argument that the horse she beat, the #1, Got Stormy, ran every bit as well, if not even a little bit better in the Sanibel Island. She tried to come into that slow pace with a 3-wide bid on the turn. She really was trying and got to Figuerella's Queen in mid-stretch, swapped leads briefly, and then she finished evenly. Another good trip could be coming from the rail.
Yeah, she could get a good trip in this race. She did her best last time, maybe while up against it a little bit. I still think she has to improve by a lot to win this race.
Let's talk about Michael Maker, because you can rarely throw him out in any major race on the turf, and he's got a 20-to-1 shot on the line. That's Beach Waltz coming out of the Appalachian. Now, maybe she didn't like the yielding ground. There's a chance for rain that could hurt her chances on Friday. Plus, she was up close to that slow pace and just didn't finish with horses that had much tougher trips than she. But she has Maker in her corner, and here's the formulator fact. Past 2 years, 3-year-old turf riders making their second start off a layoff, 34% winners, a $3.04 ROI. I think they take her back this time.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of trip she can get in this race, and then we'll see if she can take a really big step forward second off the layoff. The formulator fact suggests that she can do that. You know, just going back and watching that Appalachian, if you've gone through the replay, I mean, it's pretty clear that she was just no match for those horses in that race. With a really good trip, at a very big price, and as soon as they came for her off the turn there was just no way she could go with those horses. She didn't quit running in the stretch. I thought she ran fine, but she's got to take a huge step forward here.
The 7, Toinette, goes out for Kentucky Derby winning trainer Neil Drysdale. She's won her last 2 starts. She is undefeated on the turf. I thought she had a really nice trip last time out at Keeneland over a wet turf course. She was able to save ground. She got out early on the turn to attack the pace setter, and then she did a lot of work in the stretch.
Yeah, I liked the race that she ran in there. I liked, too, that it was the first time they stretched her out, and so she showed more tactical speed with more distance, because in her first 2 starts, she just got completely outrun early. But she ran well in both of those races, too. She took a little bit of a step forward last time. Maybe she can take one more step forward. She's taken a big step up in class here.
Cabela has won her last 3 races. As you mentioned, she has beaten Beyond Blame twice, but I really think she took advantage of that fast pace last time out to defeat Cabela. She came widest and fastest late to win it. Her buyer speed figures are solid. If you believe the pace will be fast, okay, Cabela's got a puncher's chance at 30-to-1, but just something tells me that even though it hasn't been proven on the racetrack, Beyond Blame might be a better horse.
Yeah, I sort of feel the same way about it. So we'll see what happens with her here. The other thing about it, even if she catches a big pace to close into, there are some much better closers than her. In this race, I'm not taking anything away from her last 3 starts. She's run well in all of them, but this is, I mean, she's facing a different class of horse here.
First time turf for the #5 Bo Peep, who's been competing in graded stakes races on the dirt against horses that are entered in Friday's Kentucky Oaks. This one's by Arch, who only gets 6% winners from his first time turf runners. The dam's a half-sister to a stakes winner on a synthetic surface, but this is mostly a dirt pedigree, the pedigree of the Wicked North. You remember him, an old handicap horse back in the day.
Yeah, she has a nice pedigree, but it's not necessarily a turf pedigree, so she's going to switch over here and make her turf debut in a really tough spot, and it's hard to see her moving up.
If Rushing Fall runs here, she is way the horse to beat. I kind of agree with you that she doesn't have such an edge that I would like to play odds on. So we're going to take 2 price horses as our top selections. You like the other Chad Brown horse, that's the #3 Alti, who made her North American debut in the Florida Oaks. And I know you think a lot about the horses in that race. Andina Del Sur is a nice horse. Good Things Take Time came back to run. Actually, a very competitive third to Rushing Fall in the Appalachian with an 81 buyer's speed figure. Is she one of those European horses that just needs a lot of pace and race luck because she doesn't have speed?
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to come down to for her in here. She's probably just going to need to work out a really nice trip in this race. Her European form, her form over in France, is actually pretty good. She beat a big field with a big late run to break her maiden. Her next 2 starts in Stakes Company, she got in against good horses in both of those races, and she ran well both times in there. The last time they ran her over in France in that Group 3, I mean, she had a ton of ground to make up on a wire-to-wire winner in there. She really ran at the end of that race. I liked her Florida Oaks, Dan.
Yes.
She was down inside the entire way. You could see once they got into the upper stretch, Jose Ortiz had to sort of angle her out. It took him a while to get her clear, but once he got her clear, she got into full flight pretty quickly. I like the way she finished up in there. I actually think that she can run a little bit. It's all going to come down to trip for her. We'll see. He's probably going to try and save ground early and then get out into the clear in the stretch, and then we'll see how fast she can kick home. I think she has some talent, though.
My top pick's Heavenly Love, who won her turf debut at Kentucky Downs by open lengths as a 2-year-old. She then won the Grade 1 Alcibiades on dirt, and her path was set at least for the next few starts, and that was on the way to the Kentucky Oaks, and it just did not work out for her. They ran her in the Appalachian last time out. She was bumped a little bit at the start. Really no excuses. She just didn't fire. Maybe the pace was against her just a little bit.
Yeah.
She certainly didn't run the caliber of race of Daddy's. Daddy is a legend.
Yep.
I wonder if the yielding turf course at Keeneland worked against her. I'm very worried about the forecast, unfortunately, at Churchill Downs on Friday, but I'm willing to give her that yielding excuse. And Time From US has her a lot closer to the pace. Maybe if she can get a trip like the Alcibiades, where she's sitting third or fourth, she can get the jump on some of these horses. She's not a likely win contender, but at 20-1 on the morning line, she's a stab to win. I could see her in the exotics, perhaps. I think you liked her a little bit on dirt and kind of fallen off with.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because she's a Grade 1 winner on dirt, but I think at this point, you just sort of feel like she might be better on turf, because one of the reasons that I liked her late last year is because I loved her second career start at Kentucky Downs on turf. It's the only time they ran on turf before that last one. She ran great in that race. I know it wasn't that much of a field, but she really looked good winning that race. And so maybe it's just been turf for her all along. She wasn't terrible last time. I mean, that was going to be a hard race for her to win coming from last. She raced on through the stretch, though. But
you're going to take a shot with Alti in here for Chad Brown, hoping there's a little bit of a pace. And again, you mentioned that race 2 starts back in France, where she had a lot of ground to work with. And that winner with you is pretty good. I believe she was odds on in that Group 3 race. You're going 3, 6, 11, and 2. I'm going 10, 11, 4, and 1 in the Grade 3 Edgewood Stakes on Kentucky Oaks Friday. Race number 10 is an approximate post time of 5:04 Eastern. Best of luck.